Let's first go to Trey Yangst in Israel with the latest on the Israel-Hamas deal. Trey, good morning.
Yeah, hey, Todd, Carly, good morning. The region is waiting for the implementation of this ceasefire deal that is scheduled to go into effect on Sunday. The Israeli cabinet was scheduled to vote today on the deal. That would be followed by a 48-hour period that would allow for objections in the Israeli Supreme Court. But we've just received a statement from the Prime Minister's office claiming that Hamas is going back on some of the agreements. This could be political spin, but we'll have to wait and see what more we can find out. Diplomatic conversations are continuing at a high level, urging stability in the deal. A statement released by the Prime Minister's office overnight said, quote, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke this evening with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and thanked him for his assistance in advancing the release of the hostages.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I just thought I'd share that with you. Hopefully I'm coming through here, having a little, as usual with me, I'm having a few technical difficulties. Good morning, Carrie. Always good to see you here. I think Carrie's always the first, seems to me. I don't see who else shows up here, but I wanted to show everyone that. Let's get the reflection off my glasses here. And I was wanting to talk about this for a little bit, and then I want to talk about some of the fires, the advancing of, Carrie. Yeah. And Sabrina Poe. Sabrina, hi. Good morning. Good to have you with us. So I can't help but think a few weeks ago I did my Christmas thing, my great Christmas theological statements on the Charlie Brown Christmas special and how Linus drops his blanket. And I have to go back to Peanuts again on this. I can't help but get a feeling that Lucy is about to pull the football away from Charlie Brown when he's trying to kick it, and he's going to fall on his back side once again. I did also want to bring in where this originates from. It's this goes back, this kind of thing goes back, way back in biblical times. I've been reading Genesis. I've been doing the Bible in 1 year. Started that a little late, but I started it. And I'm obviously reading through Genesis now. Genesis was part of it. And this is the continuation of Isaac and Ishmael. We have verse Genesis 21, 1 through 21 and 20. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, and okay, so Sarah becomes pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age at the very time God has promised him. Abraham gave him the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, and God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Okay. But there's a problem. So the child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to him was mocking. And she said to Abraham, get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share the inheritance with my son Isaac. So right there is the beginning of this issue. And one for Charlie Brown. Okay. One for Sabrina's comment. What was Sabrina's comment here? Oh. I guess the LOLs were what you're talking about. Yeah, one for Charlie Brown, one for Sabrina. Sabrina, you're at work. Okay. Shh. Don't let her know. All right. Well, this show will make you more productive throughout the day. So this is so frustrating to me in a lot of ways. Even when I heard about the deal yesterday, before this news broke, that there's at the last minute, Hamas is trying to change the deal. And I heard an interview with an Israel official. He says, "Hey, we're in the Middle East. This happens all the time. People try and change the deal last minute to get something better for themselves." I wasn't happy about the deal when I first heard about it. I know, I see those people in Israel that are relatives of the hostages and they want the hostages back. And I have sympathy for them in one sense, in that sense, but I also honestly don't have sympathy for them because by now, every citizen of Israel should know that if they make this deal, if they exchange Hamas terrorists that they're detaining for these Israeli hostages, half of Israel knows this, that all it will do is we'll do two things. It will resupply Hamas with its fighters, which, by the way, I heard that Hamas has now, of all the Hamas fighters that Israel has killed over the last year and a half, they've been replenished. Hamas has recruited them. Hamas has an unending recruitment base for people who want to kill Israelis, for people who want to kill Jews. And so if this is never going to end, and these hostages will come back, but all it means is that Hamas has been yet reinforced in its belief one more time that if all they have to do is attack Israel, take hostages, and Israel will send them back any Hamas fighter that they have. And it will just encourage them to do it more and more and more. That's why I say it's Charlie Brown trying to kick the football and Lucy taking it away. They fall for this every time. And Hamas and all the nation of Ishmael, which says God did make Ishmael into a great nation. Great meaning big. Okay. And his nation is like the sands of the sea too. But Ishmael is now mocking Isaac, especially when they go back on this deal at the last minute, because Hamas has nothing to lose in this. Hamas has completely met every goal they had in invading Israel. They started the war. They have international opinion on their side because it happens every time. No matter how bad Hamas is, no matter how horrible and how savage the attacks on Israel are, there will always be people that blame Israel and they say, oh, Israel has a right to defend itself until Israel defends itself. And then they'll just howl about how Israel is terrible. And, Netanyahu is the one guy that really gets it. But apparently his people within Israel who want this to go the other way, it seems to me, have made it so he's in a bad political position. And now he has to take this deal. And again, as much as I sympathize for those people with the placards that want the hostages back, they know better. And it's just a hard reality. You're in Israel. You're Jews in the middle of a sea of people who want to kill you. And you have to know that. And all the hostages had to know that. So it's such a tough situation, but it's just a no-win for Israel. And I just think this is going to continue to go badly. But again, God's promise is still with Isaac. And Ishmael will not win out. God's favor, God's blessing went to Isaac, no matter how Ishmael tries to. It's like Esau finally gave up on trying to take Jacob's back, the blessing that Jacob stole from him later on in Genesis. And I didn't really catch that much with Ishmael. Kind of went away after the story of Isaac and Ishmael, but the Muslims will tell you that Ishmael is their father. That their father Abraham, their line went through Ishmael, and Ishmael was the favored son in their eyes. So this is just, like I said, it's just a continuation of something very old. And It's also, I was talking to my wife last night, and people have made this comparison. I've heard that this is, and I've told when I was talking to Mike and Ben last week, I said, this transition we have from Biden to Trump is so much like the transition from Jimmy Carter to Ronald Reagan when I was young. And y'all caught it. I did my opinions on Jimmy Carter in those years, which were so key to my development. The Iranian hostage crisis had gone on through most of Jimmy Carter's second half of his presidency. And he tried really horrific, bungled rescue attempt in the desert that completely humiliated the United States and emboldened the Iranians. And when Ronald Reagan was elected, he told the Iranians, you better give us back those hostages or they'll be hell to pay. And on the day that Reagan was inaugurated, the hostages came back. Iran said, you know what? We can mess with Jimmy Carter. We can't mess with Ronald Reagan. Jimmy Carter was the weak horse. Ronald Reagan was a strong horse. And that's what happened. And that's what they respect. And here we go again. You can see Netanyahu thanking Donald Trump for helping get these hostages released, because it makes a difference if America's president is a strong horse or a weak horse. And no one who looked at Joe Biden during his presidency would say he was a strong horse. Let's see. Carrie, how much is this Israel's fault? It's a good question. I have a hard time, as much as people say, oh, people think everything Israel does is right. That's just because Israel's a chosen man, they are always right in what they do. There you go. Always right. What do you mean? It depends on what you mean. Is every single action they take right? No, because that would mean they're in an impossible situation acting perfectly, which will not happen. Nobody, and nobody's saying that they're right in everything they do. People always say this. Oh yeah, people, always say Israel's right in everything they do. Nobody's ever said that. But I will support Israel in everything they do because they're the ones who want peace. Even someone as obnoxious as Bill Maher on these things knows. And he said a while back, the solution to this is for Hamas and Hezbollah and all the Arab nations to stop attacking Israel. Just stop, and the situation will be resolved. Israel will not attack any of these countries if they want peace. All of these countries are waiting to attack Israel when Israel wants peace. Dennis Prager, one of the talk show host, one of my favorite guys, he says this. He says, if today all the Muslim and Arab countries around Israel laid down their arms sincerely and said, we're not going to fight anymore, there would be peace in the Middle East, peace and prosperity in the Middle East. If Israel laid down its arms and said, we are not going to fight anymore, it would be a bloodbath. The entire nation of Israel would be wiped out. And as soon as Israel was gone, the Arab nations would start going at each other, and there'd be a second bloodbath between the Arabs. So how much is Israel's fault? It's hard for me, really, honestly, to find much fault with Israel other than what they're doing now, other than that they've done this in the past. They have tried to acquiesce. They have given up hostages before, or they've given up Hamas fighters for hostages before. I think there was one Israeli soldier years ago that was in captivity, and I think Israel gave up 100, or if someone even said 1,000 Hamas fighters for this one soldier. And they've made the promises to their soldiers to get them to fight. They said, if you're ever captive, we'll get you back no matter what it takes. That's what I fault them for. You can't do that. It's just the reality of their situation. So, okay, that's how I see it, but it doesn't mean I'm correct in my thinking. I think you are, honestly. And it'd be, And I would like someone one time to turn around that question around of how much is this Israel's fault? How much of this is Hamas's fault? How much of this is the jihadist fault? This is a jihadist terror organization, and Israel is fighting. Why are we nitpicking if Israel's totally right or not? Why are we trying to find fault with Israel when they're fighting? How many terrorist organizations are they fighting right now? At least 3. One to the south, one to the north, and one to the east. So with the Houthi rebels. And I'm not sure how involved they are, but I know that they're a part of this equation. Not to mention all the other, not to mention Iran, which is the biggest one, the puppet master controlling all these. So it's hard for me to find fault with Israel just because they're in this situation and they're doing what they can. And I can't nitpick and say I could do any better. So that's all. Really, I just want to put that out there. It's something, like I said, yeah, at least you're right. If they would just leave them alone, but they can't. The guy, again, Ishmael can't handle Isaac getting the blessing. So, and that's really what it is. It's what Israel, who Israel is. Israel would stop having to be who they are as the nation that God has chosen to bless in that area, and the nation that God originally chose to be his salt and light to the world, and to be the nation that represents the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And people that are perishing just can't stand that. The people that love death, all who hate him, love death. And Israel's the one that's borne the brunt of it. So I admire Israel too much, and the Israeli people too much, to find much fault with them. They are a tough people, and they have prospered in an impossible situation, and the people around them that haven't prospered can't stand it. So it's hard for me to find much fault with Israel. So, but enough on that. I did want to talk about something that I came across, and we were talking about. Was talking about Netanyahu saying that thanking Trump and just kind of ignoring Biden. I did want to put this up here and give you.
And in the meantime, we're going through Senate confirmation hearings for his incoming administration. And boy, am I excited. But did you think it would be this easy? Well, maybe not, but it looks like it kind of is. What I mean is, we got this groundbreaking report from James O'Keefe's O'Keefe Media Group. Former Hillary Clinton staffer turned FBI spy hunter and DOD senior advisor claims to be plotting with retired generals to protect America from Trump. Well, I don't.
So that's just something I came across. And that's Tim Pool, if anybody doesn't know. This is what Trump has in front of him. And I don't know whether to laugh at this or really be concerned about this kind of thing. The deep state is real, obviously, all the things that they threw at Trump. And, in one sense, it's understandable in a really twisted way, because animals, swamp creatures, whatever you want to call them, we all have some kind of self-preservation mechanism in us. And once you've sold your soul to the deep state, and another guy like Bill Whittle talked about this, he goes, people go to Washington, especially representatives, but also other people, and they go there with the best of intentions. But when they get there, they get sucked into the swamp, and the swamp will suck you in. You could be playing golf with some senator or congressman. When you're first there, he goes, hey, let's go out to get to know each other. And he might ask you, hey, what kind of man are you? What kind of scotch you like? Are you a malt man, or, gin, whatever? And you'll say, oh, I like this. And wouldn't you know, the next day in your office, there's a pretty expensive bottle of scotch for you. And you're thinking, hey, this is pretty good. I got it pretty good here. And then all these perks and stuff. And then they say, okay, now this kind of perks, this kind of lifestyle is dependent on you playing ball with us. And slowly but surely, the swamp sucks these people in if they came there with the best of intentions. And if they came there without the best of intentions, just to have power, then they're in their element. Well, when someone comes along to threaten that, and as perverse as that is, they have a survival mechanism that they never would have been able to justify before they got there. And so, I don't know. Trump is a very unique creature. He's just impervious to this kind of thing. And I think he can handle it. And I don't think they'll take him down like this with this kind of thing, but I'm not sure. And I've said this before, because this is what Trump is up against. Trump's only got 4 years, and he's got to do it like within the first year. He's got to get this done, because then the midterm elections come along. And if he hasn't really lived up to his promise, it's just going to be a constant hammering from the media and from these people. And if they see that he is not succeeding, if they see he's failing, they're just going to pile it on more and more and more. So he's got about a year to beat this kind of thing. Michael's pretty confident about it. He's always saying, so what is this? Oh, Carrie's saying, I saw that video. The guy looked like he was telling a story to get the girl. Oh, do you mean the general? Maybe. Not that there's a problem, but I think he's using some other story. Okay. And we'll keep praying. So, yeah, and who knows how much of it to believe, but I too totally believe that there's these kind of things lining up against him, because he's just, like I said, I've said it before, I got to come up with a better analogy, but he is the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man rampaging through New York, knocking things down. And we have chosen, the Democrats and the people, our society has chosen this destructor. That was the thing in Ghostbusters, if you remember. Gozer came and said, choose the destructor, and whatever came to their mind, right? And Ray thought of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, because such a fond memory from his youth, right? And then there it was, one of the great scenes of all cinema. And if you guys haven't figured out, I like to use cinematic or television analogies on these things. And so we collectively chose Trump to be the destructor. And now, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But I just think there are just forces from the swamp and from the deep state lining up against him. And I think he's got the right people on his team. And it's going to be a fight. I'm a little worried about how much, when I hear things like, generals are talking about protecting the country from Trump, that's a little third worldish banana republic stuff. But then so is all the trials. So is all the trials that Trump went through and convictions that he had for nothing. I mean, if Trump's still guilty of some of that stuff, so are we. So is everyone else. But again, we don't do that. Thankfully, the underlying principles of our society are still strong, and that kind of thing didn't fly. So it makes me think this kind of thing won't fly, but this is a little more, this is ratcheting up to the next level, if this is true. And maybe it's not, maybe it's just some guy blowing steam. But, these generals, to get to the point where you're a general in the army, you have to have quite the ego and be quite the climber. And if you ran into Trump and he took away, if this guy was fired, I think someone said, if he took that away from you and you are a fighter, like a general, it's not a good person to have against you. But if anybody can handle it, it's Trump. What I worried about is after these 4 years, if Trump even succeeds in most of what he wants, is JD Vance the guy that's going to take up the mantle? No guarantees, but we need more Trumps. We need to start developing more fighters. And so far, we're all looking at Trump to do it. And while Trump is doing it, we need to build up our own forces, peaceful forces, obviously, but to counter this. And that's what I would really want to see start happening now. Who's going to be the next generation of swamp fighters? So, and then looks like just a fire update. Looks like out here, like I said, I'm down in San Diego County. We haven't had a problem like they have up in LA, but LA is my old hometown. I was born and raised there, south of where all the fires are. I was from the South Bay area. This is all kind of up in north of the city there, where a lot of the entertainment stuff goes on, all Malibu, where all the rich people live, and Pacific Palisades. Pacific Palisades was beautiful. We used to go there for the LA Open. My brother and I every year would go to Riviera Country Club. And if you ever watch golf on TV and watch the LA Open, you know what I'm talking about. That's quite a place. And I think that the clubhouse there was beautiful. It was saved, but just driving up that's old LA, the old LA hills. And it's kind of like La Jolla down here. Lots of narrow streets and houses set into little canyons and on top of little bluffs. And it was Southern California is a very unique place. We've got these hills and arroyos and canyons by the coast, and we've got these flat deserts out east. And like I said before, everything in California happens on the coast. Most of what happens is on the coast. California is not divided between north and south. It's divided between east and west. And the west along the coast, this little 20 mile long strip, north-south strip, is where most of the living and activity of California goes on. But it's also where most of the craziness is. And as I think I said last time, this might be the thing that breaks California for so many reasons. For these people to rebuild is going to be really difficult. The prices, I just remodeled a house last year. I can tell you the prices are out of control, and with 10, 15,000 structures needing to be rebuilt within the next 5 years in LA alone, the price of lumber and the price of materials and the price of contracting labor is just going to be off the charts. And how these people are going to do it, I don't know. And whether or not the leaders of the state will do anything to mitigate the fire danger and be responsible and implement the things that the voters have voted in, like the water projects. If they're ever going to clear the brush, I was just hiking by a dam by our house here in North San Diego County, and I was walking down this road, and the brush was so thick and so dry, and right behind some houses. It could happen here. Next week, there's going to be some more winds coming. It could have. The thing about living in Southern California, fire is our tornadoes. Okay. Everybody says earthquakes in California. No, it's fire. Fire is the thing you worry about. So it'll be interesting to see in the next 5 years or so what will take place here. If the same people remain in power, the voters vote the same way, this will just continue to happen. And like I said before, it might be the thing that breaks California. If not, if California can raise up some good leaders, we can possibly get past this. They would have to come from the Republican Party, and the Republican Party in California is pretty weak. It's been beat up and thrashed and stomped on so much. We've had one party rule here. This is one party rule for you. This is a one party state. This is the bluest of all probably blue states, and it's a mess. Whether or not, there would have to be some kind of Trump figure to rise up here and that kind of movement, make California great again. Maybe I'll start it. Who knows? So we'll see. So oh yes, and there's also this kind of thing. How much climate control do you think that's focused doing? So like I said, there's so many things going on here now, and so many things ahead that we'll just have to see how it goes. So lots of there's an old curse. I always talk about it. May you live in interesting times, folks. We're living in interesting times, and God has chosen us to be the ones that are going through it. And so I just might, Carrie. Thank you. All right, folks, I'm over time, so got to go. Thanks for looking in. I'm going to be with Ben and Mike tomorrow, so we'll see you then.